Hello from Brazil, hello from Maringá. My name is Marcos. I study in business school of the University Center of Maringá, Unicesumar, and work in the Human Resources Department in a construction company. I host Abdo in my house during the time he was in Brazil on the Isaac project. He asked me to answer these questions about Brazil, Brazilian life and culture. What are the most important resources of the national income? Brazil's resources comes from agriculture, livestock, and industry. In addition to fees and taxes, we have to pay fees and taxes for everything here. Everything in Brazil is expensive, like supermarkets, gas, energy, water, health, education, etc. About Brazilian culture. Brazil's culture is a synthesis of the influence of various peoples and ethnic groups that form the Brazilian culture. There isn't a perfectly homogeneous Brazilian culture, but rather a mosaic of different cultures that together form the culture of Brazil. Almost all of us speak the same language, which is Brazilian Portuguese, and almost all of us are Christians. This linguistic and religious equality is a rare fact for a large-sized country like Brazil. What are the technologies that Brazilians use at agriculture? Overall organic farming uses mechanical farming methods as were used before. The difference is that these methods have been adapted to new and modern agriculture production technologies. The purpose of inserting the technology in organic farming is to produce more and better. To compensate the fact that there aren't equipment designed for organic agriculture, farmers create unique production processes and new organizational methods. It is quite common for these producers to adapt their conventional agriculture equipment for your use. When did the industry start in Brazil? How? And what are the most famous industries in Brazil? Brazil has the second largest industrial park in the Americas. The increased economic stability, Brazilian and multinational companies have invested heavily in new equipment and technology, and many of them were bought from US companies. 33 Brazilian companies were included in Forbes Global 2000, which is an annual ranking of the top 2,000 companies in the world by Forbes magazine. The largest Brazilian companies are Petrobras, Vale, Uzi Minas, Gerdau, Eletrobras, Ambev, and Bang. The problems that are in our society today. The first one, unemployment. Although job creation has increased in recent years due to economic stability and economic growth, there are still millions of Brazilians unemployed. The economy has grown, but not enough to generate the jobs needed in Brazil. Many people have opted for informal employment, a factor that is not positive, as these workers are without the guarantee of labor rights. Crime and violence. Violence is growing every day in Brazil, especially in large cities like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. The crimes are increasingly present in people's daily lives. Crimes are reported in newspapers, radio, and TV every day. The lack of more rigorous laws, coupled with social injustice, may partly explain the worsening of these problems in our country. health. Today, people who have better financial condition are looking for health plans and the private system because public health is in a state of crisis. Overcrowded hospitals, drug shortages, broken appliances, poorly maintained buildings are the main problems in public systems, hospitals, and clinics. The most affected population is one that depends on this medical care, the poorest people. Education. Data on student performance, especially in the public education network, are alarming. Public education is a number of problems and difficulties. Poorly maintained buildings, lack of teachers, few teaching resources, low wages, violence in schools, and this situation is the result of the low level of public investment in this area. The result is the poor training of Brazilian students. Housing. The housing deficit is big in Brazil. That is a big problem. There are millions of families who do not have adequate housing conditions. In medium and large cities, it is very common the presence of slums, and we also found people living on the streets, under overpasses and bridges. In these places, people have inadequate living conditions, undergoing many difficulties. How the government work to solve these problems? Big government's challenge is to maintain control of inflation with economic and social development, progressive public policies, job creation, and protection of labor rights. It was created 20 million formal jobs, accompanied by a policy of valuing the minimum wage, which today corresponds to $205. In my opinion, what are the biggest problems faces Brazil at this time? Corruption. Corruption is seen as the biggest problem in Brazil. Brazil is going through a delicate situation when talking about corruption. Theft, fraud, swindles, especially in the political class, lead the people to discredit the country. The main reason of this process is impunity, which together with those who make the law benefits the rich over the poor. Observing the events in recent years, more and more scandals involving congressmen, senators, and even ministers, presidency, in addition to murders and other crimes of violence reaching alarming figures. How do I think Brazil can solve it? To end corruption, it is necessary that people vote with conscience. I believe that the conscious and democratic vote is the only solution for an end to corruption.